It was billed as a homecoming, and it had all the markings of a campaign rally.
Parents are calling it a punch in the gut, a painful reminder of losing their children to gun violence. The city assures the fire department it calculated the dimensions of their ladder truck when the streetscape project was designed.
Those who live around here tell me this sign is a joke. It's common knowledge that the city camera that's just 100 feet away doesn't work, and city leaders say the long-term solution is not a quick fix.
Tonight, the Senate floor belonged to President Trump's team as his lawyers began their defense in his impeachment trial. A young boy is being credited with saving lives after he called 911 because he believed his school bus driver was drunk.
This over here used to be a retention pond, or it is a retention pond, and you can't tell the difference between that and the roads inside of the complex and the parking lots. 81 steps and 9 flights of stairs up to the top of the fire watchtower. Here, firefighters have a viewpoint reaching 30 miles. Using this fire tracker, they can pinpoint exactly where a fire is. President Trump declared that Qasem Soleimani's reign of terror is over.
If, despite every intention of moderation, you completely overindulged on Thanksgiving, don't panic, right?
It's a little warm to be out at the North Pole, but here off Donald Ross and US 1, you could step into a little Christmas wonderland before Thanksgiving. Now, the trees arrive here on Sunday, but the owner tells me he's been getting calls for about 2 months now. Why the suspect blew through 2 security checkpoints in place on the island ahead of the president's arrival.
And for the last 2 weeks, day in and day out, you were in the courtroom this morning. Michelle.
That's right, Michael, and as you mentioned, Newman Raja's face was very stoic as that verdict was read. Forensic scientists tested Corey Jones's clothes for gun residue, and that gave investigators an idea of the distance between Raja's gun and Jones. Everyone's really excited. We've seen press from all around the world out here, many tourists coming to see the Pope. Even with the Pope here inspiring change in Cuba, many business owners don't think they'll see economic improvement anytime soon.
Oh, I've never seen snow.
What?
I've never seen snow.
It's right there.
I know. Well, I've seen it, but never been in it. You know, I got to do it. I got to do it soon. Welcome to Today on 5. I'm Michelle Quesada in for Tori Dunnan, here with meteorologist Steve Villanueva. And tomorrow's the first day of fall.
Tomorrow's the first day of
You know what that means? All the scented pumpkin spice candles get lit.
That's
The weather's
right.
been pretty nice, though.
Michael Kelly, before DeAndre Somerville was called for jury duty, he had never set foot inside a courthouse. He told me his goal was actually to stay away from court, stay out of trouble. Unfortunately, that also led to him not really knowing how jury duty works. 21-year-old DeAndre Somerville learned the hard way why you can't miss jury duty.
After going through that, it's like my life will never be the same again.
In August, he was sworn in as a juror on a civil case. He was to return the next day for trial, but he overslept.
I woke up and I looked at the time, and I was like, oh, shoot, it's past the time.
Mistake number 2, he didn't call the jury office to let them know what was going on. Days later, he was served with a subpoena to go before the judge.
I talked with my granddad for a while, and he said the best thing you can always do is honesty. So I went for the hearing.
DeAndre lives with his grandparents and helps look after his grandfather by taking him to therapy.
My grandma was saying, oh, I think you should dress up. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna wear my work clothes because I feel like at least he can see that I'm doing something. Because a lot of times people get stereotyped. Oh, he's just another black boy out here doing something he's not supposed to be doing.
But the 21-year-old didn't see what was coming.
I just said, sir, I overslept and I didn't understand the seriousness of this. He asked me if I had a criminal record. I said, sir, I've never been arrested.
Transcripts show DeAndre apologized, but the judge sentenced him to 10 days in jail. DeAndre said all he could think about was his grandfather.
He depended on me. So it was like, you know, it's hard for him.
Judge John Kastronakis' order said DeAndre's failure to appear delayed the trial by 45 minutes, and the court couldn't reach him. WPTV's criminal analyst Michelle Suskauer says these cases are not common.
This is going to show others you have to take this very seriously, but this 21-year-old with no prior record now has a misdemeanor conviction. Could there have been other alternatives to maybe be more instructive and less punitive? It's possible.
He spent 10 days in jail, is on probation for 1 year, and has to complete 150 hours of community service.
It hurts, but it's like it's a lesson learned. It could have been worse. It could have gave me 365 days in jail.
The judge's order found there was no good reason to explain why Somerville didn't appear to court. We did reach out to the judge and are waiting to hear back. Reporting live from the Palm Beach County Courthouse, Michelle Quesada, WPTV News Channel 5.
During the colder months of the year, police agencies are contracted by Palm Beach County to protect manatees in our waterways.
Some people actually don't know that they're running through a manatee speed zone.
But in 2017, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement wanted to file charges against a West Palm Beach police officer paid to enforce manatee zones. An investigation determined Lieutenant Gregory Babcock received more than $2,500 in overtime for hours he did not work. Part of FDLE's evidence came from a fellow officer turned whistleblower. He hired a licensed private investigator who recorded Babcock at home on a day he was paid for 8 hours of overtime. Despite the findings, the state attorney's office did not file charges, finding instead that the evidence did not meet the requirements for prosecution. I went a step further and found documents from the 2016-2017 manatee enforcement season show there was only one weekend Babcock submitted written boating warnings. I tracked down the boaters.
Not only do I not remember it, it never happened.
I know it was a long time ago, 2016. You pull up records on what was going on that day?
I've actually never been on that boat and never received any warning in the past 15 years.
He said his boat was in the water at a marina.
They pull into the marina, they could write down a registration number on a boat that they probably see out here.
Another boater had a similar story.
I never got pulled over.
A third told me in an email, in checking my calendar and photos, I wasn't on the water the Saturday, November 19, 2016, as my wife and I had our grandkids at our house for a few days. Law enforcement expert Andrew Scott took a look at the warnings.
If you have boaters who allegedly were issued a warning by this officer and you've contacted those boaters and they have no recollection of this, and furthermore, there's no signature from that individual boater, now you have a significant problem. You have a problem of falsifying official documents.
In the last 8 years, Babcock has been disciplined for 8 internal affairs investigations, including one for, quote, loafing on duty.
I think the city has an obligation to go back in and investigate who's watching the hen house.
4 months into FDLE's investigation, Lieutenant Babcock rechecked his hours and reimbursed the city for more than $400 for hours he realized he did not work. The police department later opened an internal affairs investigation. In it, Babcock expressed concerns about the surveillance video of him, but the investigator found more hours Babcock could not prove he worked. New at 6, find out if the new mayor and a county commissioner plan to take action now. Live in the studio, Michelle Quesada, WPTV News Channel 5. Shannon, Christian Elmore was caught walking out of Walmart with stolen fishing gear. He told me he knew it was wrong. He says what he didn't know was that having 2 dead gators in his trunk next to the stolen items was also illegal. Christian Elmore told me he's jobless, has no money, and has to get creative when it comes to dinner.
I've cooked snake meat. I've cooked about anything, you know. I mean, when it comes to being dead broke, you know, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
He says he was fishing at a pond right next to the Fort Pierce Police Department when an alligator got stuck on his line, so he says he caught it. How'd you catch it? I mean, how do you know how to do this?
With a fishing pole in my hands. Fishing pole in my hands. I drug it up on land, caught it with my hands, you know. And
That sounds kind of dangerous.
Nah, I'm from Florida, man.
Elmore told me the 2 gators he caught were about 3.5 to 4 feet long. He killed them by hitting them on the head, then threw them in the trunk and headed to Walmart. A Fort Pierce police report says Elmore was seen grabbing $232 worth of fishing gear and walking right out of the garden center exit without ever paying for the items. He told me he stole to give his 19-month-old son a gift.
It's really hard to explain, you know. I just wanted to get something for him, but I have no money.
Elmore was going to return the stolen gear when the loss prevention officer approached him. But then, when the trunk was opened, officers saw the 2 illegally captured and killed gators.
That was something to eat. I had no clue it was illegal to catch or kill a gator. I didn't know that. I truly regret this. So if I had the choice to go back, I would. If I would have known, especially with 2 kids and everything, I feel like it's just going to ruin me.
Elmore is facing 2 felony charges and a petty theft charge. Now, in Florida, it is illegal to capture and or kill an alligator unless you're a licensed trapper by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission or have a hunting permit for a specific area and time approved by the statewide alligator harvest program. Reporting live in Fort Pierce, Michelle Quesada, WPTV News Channel 5.